Hi, I'm Casey. I like to work on old cars as a hobby, and sometimes I make money doing it. It's very fulfilling to take something that was probably too far gone to be saved and then putting a lot of effort into it and being rewarded with it running once again. And I've done just that with this 1964 Rambler American 220. It was slated to go to the grave. It hadn't run in a very long time, I think 2016 or 2017. And between me and a really good friend of mine, Jeff, who's not here at the very moment, we got it to run again, which is awesome. Yay. And the plan was to take this car, which is really cool looking, and put it back on the road. But after about a week of playing with it and taking the interior out, taking the carpet out, being underneath it several times, this car will never be safe on the road. There's nothing I can do aside from buying another 1964 AMC Rambler and taking the VIN tags and putting it on there, which is very illegal. There's nothing short of that I could ever do to make this car safe to run and drive again. It is way too far gone, and which is super disappointing because, as in the pictures that I saw from a friend of mine who owned it up in Pennsylvania, that should have been my first indication. It looks straight as an arrow, and it is pretty darn straight. There's very few bumps and dings all the way around the car, and I'm very happy with that. Yay! But what was really well hidden, and I mean really well hidden, was the substantial amount of rust. And again, I knew going into it expecting a little bit of rust. He did an okay job showing some pictures of some rust in the floors, but as soon as moving the carpet out and fighting the seats to get the seats out, realizing that it's not just some of the floors, but it's almost all of the floors is rotten. And that's one thing that people I don't think understand often enough, that just because there's a hole here doesn't mean the rest of the floor over here isn't rotten underneath that layer of paint, or in this case, undercoat like rubber seal. It's all gone. It's shot. If I were to stand on this floor, me at a whopping 150 pounds stands a pretty good chance of going straight through it. I don't want to do that. I haven't had a tetanus shot in a long time, and I don't want to be, caught surprised with this thing. And we got it to run off of a bottle, and I looked and saw that it was someone had running off of an old ginger ale bottle of some sort as a fuel system, and seeing that the fuel lines, the one fuel line is rusted and it's got multiple holes riddled all throughout. It kind of looks like Swiss cheese. It's still not worth the effort. And the quarter panels had been patched once before, and when they did that, they filled it with foam, which, if you are an amateur car restorer, please, for God's sake, never do that ever again. Horrible idea, because the next guy, whoever it may be, many years later, if they ever want to work on the car, if they want to restore it, they want to repaint it, they're going to have to take all that out. And unfortunately, between the foam holding in the moisture, not only has it rusted out the outside panel, it's rusted out the inside panel as well. It's really making this a lost cause and fixing that quarter panel as well. There's rust holes in the cowl. There's rust holes in the rocker the size of $50. If you're a Generation Z and you don't know what that is, it's the size of a soda bottle cap. The interior was absolutely roached to heck, filled to the brim with mice nest. And if reincarnation's a thing, I want to come back as a mouse and live in a junkyard, because they have the best life ever. Because all they do is they just take all of the foam and then they run off with it and find a nice little pocket in the car, and they build a really nice mouse house, and they do awful, terrible things in it for the next guy to discover. I found the mouse that had turned this into a condominium, or at least was working on making it into a condominium, and he lived a very long and happy life. And when I found him, he had been dead for a very, very long time. And I still can't get that smell out of this car. There's nothing left in the car, and it still smells like that. There's nothing to be done. So you may be saying, oh, well, why don't you just fix the little bits of rust on it, and why don't you replace the fuel line? It's just one line. Well, that's sort of true. I could replace the rust, and I can replace that fuel line, and I can patch the floors. But then we reach the law of diminishing returns. I'm already in this car for too much money. There's no way I can get a third of the money I have into this car back out, and that's fine. It's like going to Vegas. It's like going to a casino. You take these chances, and that's all right. I knew going into it that there was a chance that this wasn't going to work out, and it didn't. I'm okay with that, but I don't want to chance someone else's life. If I have to go through this thing, I have to replace all the brake lines. I have to replace the brake shoes. I have to replace the brake drums, or at least have them turned, and then the wheel cylinders. And then I really should probably go and update it best I can. These cars originally, I think, had a single pot master cylinder, which is kind of dangerous. And so I haven't really looked. If you guys are Rambler guys and you're screaming at me, I'm sorry. I just don't care. But it's the law of diminishing returns. It's a four-door, the lowest spec Rambler they could have possibly made. It had no options. I mean, it came with no radio as an option, or lack thereof. And if I were to take the time to build this thing into what it deserves to be, and to be restored back into its original glory of its raunchy flathead 6 or L-head 6 with its 3-speed manual on the column, I would have enough money into it to buy 2 completely restored 64 Rambler American 220s. And I would have had a lot less stress in doing so. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So now I have a car that I really don't want to scrap, but I'm going to have to scrap it in one form or another. I'm thinking about cutting various bits and pieces off of the car and trying to make some form of art out of it. I think these guys will look pretty cool hanging up on the wall if I cut the whole front end off. Maybe do the same with the back. Who knows? But that's yet to be decided. Or if you have any ideas, let me know. If you are absolutely insane and you want to have a stab at restoring this, don't. I won't sell it to you. But if you need a parts car, I'll consider selling it to you. I think I love the idea of taking one car that can't be saved so it can help another. Consider this a really healthy transplant engine and transmission for another car. If you so desire a L-head, flathead 6 in your car, it'd make a great little rat rod. But that's going to be this for this car. I mean, there's nothing left to save on it. I am just as disappointed as anybody else, if not even more so, that I couldn't bring this thing back on the road. But I sputtered into life. I'm satisfied with that alone. And hopefully, maybe, it'll save another car. Bye.